Well, it was due out in September 2019. That is the Wool Working Group report. We've certainly, of course, been chasing it here on Sarah's Country, and so has Annette Scott from Farmers Weekly, and a great article out in this week's Farmers Weekly around the mounting frustration of the stakeholders within the wool industry. So joining us now, hot off a Zoom call from Minister O'Connor, is Craig Smith. He is the chair of the New Zealand National Council of Wool Interests. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, and once again, thank you for having me back on your show. And it's true, I just have got off the big call with the Minister of Agriculture, and yeah, so it finally happened.
Did he do what all politicians do well and sort of not really answer any questions?
Well, when asked about the wool report, we got it'll be out in 2 weeks' time again. So which we've been having that since I don't know, so beginning of November last year.
Craig, do you think we should fly up there and just get it hand-delivered on the steps of Parliament? Because it keeps getting lost in that courier.
Yeah, well, I think in all fairness, it's not the report that the Minister wanted.
Okay.
To be fair. It's and I think he's just going and he wants to post-COVID it, is his exact words that he's after. So it's not quite exactly what he was looking for. I think if it came out as it is, it will just be another report, and credit to him, he doesn't want to release it, so it's just another report and file.
100%, absolutely, like you said. However, did you make suggestion around the consultation with those in the industry, or lack of?
Yeah, we did have a wee discussion around that, and very good minister speak came out, so that's good. But there is. Within the report, there is some elements of the industry that is missing, and his challenge to me as the new chairman of the National Council is to get out there and champion the cause of wool. And I've taken that on board, and I did that when I took over the chairmanship role anyway. So I'm excited about it. We're going to get on with or without the report as an industry. And one of the big things around the industry right now is that everyone is sitting in the same tent, and it's bloody fantastic. Everyone's the brokers, the exporters, the merchants, shearers, fed farmers, beef and lamb, ronds, the whole lot are all really dedicated to making our product the shining light that it should be, and it's not at the moment.
Craig, that's what I can't understand. And I've been on this about a few different areas here, whereby the minister has been correct in saying, where is this unified voice? There's no point all banging on our door. And there has been a lot of collaboration in the last 3 years, I must say. So why put something under a separate wool working group when he asked you to get all the stakeholders together to create this national council? Why not give you the funding to create that strategy document? Industry lead?
Well, I think he was just looking at it and saying, because there has been negativity, there has been so-called disjoint industry, that he needed to do it independently. But 2 years ago, when we all sat down and said, pretty much this is the report you'll get out, and whenever it's finished, and it's ended up exactly the same. It's just telling us status quo. There's nothing in there. There's a few bullet points about what we could do, but he did say to me that the report that I have been asked to comment on won't be the report that's going out to public. So it's going to be, a few changes. But as I said, I don't think it's a report he was really looking for. Okay,
under a national-led government, we had a different strategy. It was a co-investment with industry under the Primary Growth Partnership. And one of those was $11 million from the government, matched with a following $11 million from the New Zealand Merino company, to use their learnings to fix the strong wool's woes under W3 Wool's Unleashed. What's your thoughts on where we've got to that and the outcomes from that program, Craig?
So I also brought that up with the minister today, and he said, you're just bashing the opposition. I said, no, I'm not. I said, I'm very concerned that the outcomes from that PGP funding, and I'm even more concerned around the auditing that's gone on by MPI around the so-called outcomes that have to date have been cost the government taxpayer around $5.6 million to date. I think there's still another $6 million to go of government money to go in there. And the minister was very quickly to point out, he said he wasn't the one that gave the money to that PGP funding. So that was the other government. So it's kind of, I think that the easiest way to sum it up, it's as it looks right now and what's on paper, it hasn't worked, and there is no outcomes in that from that PGP funding on the crossbred sector that I can see in their reports that has made any change to the crossbred wool price. Now, I also thought that maybe the $6 million may be even better spent as industry good, not just for one commercial company. And so, but that, I don't think we ever get across the line, but I firmly believe that $6 million can be spent a lot better than that it probably is going to be spent at the moment. So.
Yes, and I took an irate phone call this week from a member of the wool industry who feels terrible paying farmers such a low rate for wool and wants to do something about it. He was critical of government funding going into research and ideas, not into capital infrastructure for local manufacturing that has literally nearly been completely wiped out here in New Zealand. And moving forward with the localisation rather than globalisation that we're facing as a world, that capital investment into added value wool manufacturing is a huge need moving forward.
Yes, it is, and I understand where that person's point of view is coming from, and there is funding available. I think we need to make the funding more accessible, and there's a food and fibre fund that is available, and we need people to help you work through that, because we all know when we've looked at government funding applications, you need a degree to figure out what speech and what type of language you need to write that in. And for us in the wool industry, we know wool, we know how to speak wool. We don't know how to speak government funding applications. So I think that's probably more of an issue, because I know that there is funding there, and the minister was open about that today. He said the door is open, come back to me, and if there's funding there, we will definitely help you out. So infrastructure and capital investment is definitely a way forward, but I think more importantly what we need to do as an industry, and this is what I'm really going to take on board, is about telling our story. We need to be able to tell the story of wool, and people say, oh well, what does that mean, and the minister says, yeah, but you just sound like you and the old cronies at the wool industry are just us as consumers. We don't know about wool. We know about fast fashion. We don't know about wires, wool carpets. What do they do around VOCs, absorbing all these types of things? Asthma. I've just seen some really good stuff on healthy building. And so there's a lot of stuff in there that we've just forgotten to tell people about. And so that's what my big focus. And I'm really not, as much as I said to the minister today, I'm going to support, and the industry is going to support the wool report when it comes out. But in the meantime, we're going to get on and do something, because we need to. And
pass on around some of the wool carpets that can go into government infrastructure spend as well, Craig, I'm sure. No,
exactly. I brought that up, and that's a really good point, right? So at the moment, I know that the kind of order, the state housing in New Zealand, or Housing New Zealand, if you go to their website's all about sustainability. It's all about renewal, being healthy, all these great buzzwords. And but they all put plastic carpets down, and they all put really unhealthy stuff in these buildings. And I said this to the minister today, and he said, yeah, but like we've got to look at the long term. I said, yeah, dead right. And I said, I know for a fact that the government now today has got quotes for new carpets into the new buildings. And I know one of the offers there is a wool option. And he goes, oh, they'll be way too expensive. I said, no, because I knew as a politician, that would be the first thing you would say. And I just said, I know for a fact they're only 7% dearer than the synthetic option that they've got. He said, well, if that's the case, then I'll be putting an inquiry in to make sure that goes in. So,
good. Good.
So and I know that's not going to fix the price of wool, but at least it's going to make people a bit more aware that how good wool is.
Craig, I just have to end here on one point that I heard this morning around the Australian Merino auctions being $10 a kilo back potentially when we come out of this. And this Australian-China tension, will that have a flow-on effect to our contracts here at home?
Well, there's long-term contracts, like with the company that I work for. We have long-term 3-year contracts in place. And so they were set 3 years ago, and so they're still in place, and I know companies have got long-term contracts in as well. But what is going to be interesting is when we start selling fine wool here in New Zealand through our auction system. We will be just in line with what Australia is doing. So $10 is a reasonable number to be back on last year, which is sad. But when at the moment there's really only China in the market for fine wools, they're kind of dictating what's going on. But no, we won't be immune from that $10 at the time, from that price drop either. But saying that, the quality of the Australia wool at the moment isn't that great. So, it's kind of, yes, it is a long way back, but the better wools are still selling maybe $8 less than last year. But, it's still a long way back from last year.
And just for those who don't know, is this due to breaks in the wool from the drought?
Yes, and very low. Yeah, basically the drought is the one that's doing it. There's breaks, there's high VM, a lot of dust, yielding around between 50-55% yield, whereas here in New Zealand, our merinos are doing, on average, around 70%. So, the export is buying a lot more dirt than he is buying wool just about. So,
Craig, I could talk to you for a long time about wool. However, we've certainly got more guests to get to tonight on Sarah's Country.
This is Sarah's Country.